Hi everybody, you're watching Unchained Crochet and this is Jen. This here is a coaster that I made as a tutorial for left-handed crochet, I think just yesterday or the day before. I have had a couple people that I have heard or have voiced to me that they are interested in learning to hand sew or embellish your crochet. So that's what this tutorial is. This is a Sew-Cro project, it's sewing for your crochet. This could also be used to add patches to your elbows of your cardigans, whether they're knit or crocheted. So I started out considering this fabric, and I thought I'm going to go for this fabric. It looks, enough contrast, a little bit of contrast. This is kind of a mossy green. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's a batik, a very pretty fabric. But it does not quite have the contrast that I want. I'm a gypsy, and I like this orange fabric right here. So I'm going to undo this. I just glued this on. I folded a piece of paper, computer paper, and folded it in half and cut it out just like a little snowflake so that I have a heart. And I'm going to make a heart and add it to the coaster. So to do that, don't be afraid of the Elmer's washable school glue. This is purple. It dries clear. You may see it a little bit on the fabric. Don't worry about it. It wipes right off and washes out. So not a big deal. But this is how I did my applique before. Now, to be totally honest here and up front, I have never appliqued on crochet. So this is the blind leading the blind. Alright, so we've got this piece here. It has a couple wrinkles, but I'm not going to worry too much about the wrinkles. Going over one of them is okay. I don't want to go over a bunch of them. Okay, let's just move it down here so we waste less fabric. Leave yourself anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch around the outside of this heart. Just make sure it's secured good where you would have to peel it off to get it off of there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave it laying flat and cut it out. Obviously, mine has not set up yet. It's not dry. You don't have to be perfect with cutting it out. Just make sure you don't cut it too close. You want to leave yourself a turning hem. That's a turning hem, not a turny hem. Not an attorney, not a hem, a turning hem. I did a lot of quilting applique. I have a whole quilt that I needle turned applique, and that is the method that I'm going to use with this heart. Hopefully that glue is setting up pretty good. We only need the paper piece on there. If you had freezer paper, that's ideal. Freezer paper, you can iron it down with the shiny side down. You can iron it onto your fabric, cut out the piece, and then just simply put a pin in the middle and pin it to the piece you want to put it on. And leave the freezer paper on and literally use your freezer paper as a guide to where you're turning your edges, like this. If your freezer paper were stuck on there, you could just use that as a guide and leave your freezer paper attached. But I don't have any freezer paper right now. It's been a long, long time since I did any quilting. So for this project, you need your piece that you want to applique on. And you also need some thread. I use just regular Coats & Clark or whatever. Dual duty's fine. All-purpose thread. I am using a dark contrast thread so that you can see where I'm going with the thread and the needle. So I have a needle here. As far as the size, I'm not even sure. You want that eye big enough to accept your thread that you're using. Sorry for the bumping. Can't wait for my new tripod tomorrow. So to thread the needle, those who are new to hand sewing, put your thread right between your fingers like so. And then take the eye of your needle and literally sit it on top of that thread. You might need to turn the eye of your needle just a bit. Turn it around. I don't know if you can see this. It focuses right there. Just turn your needle and I got my reading glasses on. I still can't get it because I want to pull it up to my face. Just sit it on top of the tip of that thread, and you should be able to thread it fairly easily. Instead of poking the thread at the needle, set the needle on top of the tip of the end of the thread. So I am double straining this. Typically with quilting, I would use one strand of thread. I'm going to knot my thread at the tails together 3 times. Okay, now that I've got this on here, I'm just going to go around this heart with a pretty good dash line with a pin. Just dashing a 1/4 inch every 1/4 inch or so. You want to be able to see your curves. You want to be able to visualize where you're going. You can use a dressmaker's pin. That works. I have a silver one somewhere around here. I just have not used it in ages. I came across it when I reorganized my craft stuff and still do not use it. But a dressmaker's pen or marker, a disappearing ink marker would work great for this. But this is just a coaster. I'm not planning on taking this and showing it off to everybody. Just you all. Just YouTube, that's all. So around that point, I want to get around that point good. So I went on both sides of the heart for that point. And feel free, I mean, if you want to trace around all the way around and not miss any spots of your heart, that's fine too. So I'm done with my pattern piece. I'm peeling that off. I'm going to lay this on here and see how I like the fit. That is just fine with me. I like it. Might be cute diagonally too. Nope, I like it straight up and down. I've not blocked this piece, so this is a user piece. Oh, and before you get started gluing your heart down, you're going to want to snip almost all the way into that inward tip at the top. So just snip that fabric right there like that. So you want that to almost come to the line right there. Can you see it? Try to get my camera to focus. Okay. So I've got this wrinkle here and it's bugging me, so I'm just going to take and finger press that wrinkle the other way, get it to lay down a little bit better for me. I don't want to fight a bunch with the wrinkles. And if yours has a little bit of wrinkles, you don't want to iron it first, that's fine. You can always hit it with a steam iron and your acrylic is safe. Just make sure you use steam. Lots of it. Okay, so we are going to use the Elmer's glue again. I use this in place of whatever those straight pins and quilting safety pins. I like my quilting safety pins. I use those on my crochet hook roll that I made and quilted. I use the quilting pins for that. You can use quilting pins for this. They're great. But if you really slather the glue on pretty good, and you can go to the edge. If you want to go to the edge, put it on top of a paper towel or something, because what you can do is go all the way around where you did your little line and kind of press it down in certain spots. I wouldn't go all the way around a curve like this, but just tack it down. At least get yourself a good start. You can tack it down all the way around if you want, but it's much easier to turn it with the needle as you stitch because your fabric is bulkier toward the outer edge. It's easier to do it as you go rather than go around like this and try to get that nicely rounded. It's easier to take little bites of your fabric with your needle. I'm going to pause here for just a second. Get a drink. So Now we've got our heart. I'm going to press it down in place where I want it. That looks even enough to me for my little gypsy house. Make sure that your knot gets buried underneath your fabric. So what I'm going to do here is kind of come up through the bottom, near the bottom edge, and I'm just going to let that knot sit inside that seam and deal with it some more later. But give it a good pressing with your hand. You might let it sit and dry a little bit. I'm not going to do that because I'm reckless. I've got this little bit turned under to show you. I'm just going to take it and gather it in my hand like this. Go over to where I have brought my thread up. Now I'm going to catch a little bit of yarn and catch just a little bit of the fold. You want to come out kind of the side of the fold. So if you're coming up too far up on top, your thread's going to show a lot. I recommend that you come out the side of your fold, and your thread will hide nicely in your crochet that you are putting it on. I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Grab a little bit of yarn, come up through the fold of the fabric. Keep doing the same thing. Just look for some yarn and a place to tack it. I would suggest your stitches be no further than 1/4 inch apart. Be careful not to stretch your crochet as you go. Then your crochet will take a warped shape. Your fabric may lay flat, but it will get rippled from the crochet getting warped. You don't want to stretch it. I just keep backing out till I get close enough to that last stitch that was right there. Now I'm about 1/4 inch away, and I'm coming up through the fold. So continue on like so, like so and so. I love Sew-Cro projects. This has turned out pretty easy. Just keep grabbing a little bit of your yarn, a little bit of your fabric, a little bit of yarn, a little bit of fabric. Make sure you get into your fabric and try to come out the side of the fold. If you're on top, no biggie. Let it have a handmade look. I'm filming this through the YouTube app and just hit, the record button. Thinking I'm just going to do a short, quick video. And now the dog's running out and I have no way to pause. So, alright. She's going to have to wait. Bailey, oh, yeah, okay. Alright, she got up on the couch, so we're good. Just keep catching your yarn. Try to fetch up some of the yarn that's right underneath your fold. Like in between where your needle's going in and out. Try to catch up that yarn in between. So far so goody. Looks nice. Can you see? Alright, so now I'm coming to a part where I haven't turned yet. I'm just going to take my needle, the tip of my needle, and I'm going to give it a little shove under my thumb. And you don't want to do too much at one time, especially on a curve. Make sure when you give it a little shove that you're not shoving your stitches of crochet underneath. I've got a little tangle in my thread, so I'm going to pull that again. And then when you get to where you need to turn your fabric under again, stop and readjust your hand position. And then turn it under some more. So I'm approaching where I need to turn under again. So I'm going to turn it under with my needle, right like that. Try not to disturb your crochet stitches below. Just kind of run your needle between your thumb and your crochet. You don't want to shift your crochet too much, I know that, because it will shift right along with it. And don't pull your thread too tight, or you're going to gather your crochet right up with your thread. Don't go past the point that your thumbnail can't hold that fabric under. I think that is important here. I'm going to take one last little bite right here and try to bring my needle up right there before I need to turn again. Now I'm going to turn this edge under. When I did this before, man, I had this stuff right up against my face. It's hard to do a tutorial on it and stitch it at the same time, but here we are. Okay, so get rid of that extra little thread. Every once in a while, pull your threads all the way down to your needle to be sure that your threads are riding together and that you're not getting a tangle worked up. So just keep coming up right underneath your fold. Now I need to adjust again, so I'm going to adjust again. Now if part of your gluing job comes undone, right now it kind of feels like it's on a good brand new felt board like we used to use back in the day. But if it does come undone, just turn that piece over a little bit in that area and hit it with your Elmer's glue again. And you might wait for it to dry. Okay, now I can see the edge here. I don't want any of that, a bunch of that edge where the ink is to show. So I'm going to retuck right there just a bit. And come back up. If you use a thread that matches your fabric, that's the best idea. I'm just showing you this to so that you can see my thread against those two fabrics. Now I'm going to come from this side and I'm just going to roll it up in my hand, smush it up a bit, and continue. You want to be sure you don't sew your two sides of your crochet square together, or whatever it is you're working on. Don't sew those together with your needle. Make sure you're only hitting the top of your stitches here. It's all about just giving it a little bit of a smush at a time. A little smush under with the needle. Take a little bite. Sometimes you need to go 1/16 of an inch. Or 1/8 of an inch, more like it, instead of 1/4 inch. Now here, you can turn it under, right like that. Oops, sorry, I've got a little bit of a fold. There's more bulk out here, so you have to be careful turning it under right here. I'm just trying to catch the edge of that fabric with my needle. Okay, so that's good enough for now. I'm going to take a couple more bites of this fabric here. You don't have to be so particular when you're not using a contrasting thread like this, just so you know. But I am not going past my thumb. Try not to go past your thumb where you're holding it. And make sure that you keep on turning your edge under. Just take a little bit of it with the tip of your needle and smush it under. They make applique needles. They're very tiny. If you're a crocheter, I don't recommend those. They are very, very tiny, and that is for very detailed work when you're appliquing cotton to cotton. as opposed to cotton to crochet. Going cotton fabric to cotton fabric is easy with an applique needle. Not so much with that tiny needle when you're doing cotton to crochet. So I've come undone there. I'm just going to pinch it under again. This is so hard. I'm wanting to just pull it up to my face, but I can't do that because you won't be able to see. I have an applique quilt that I designed. It took me a year to make. And I hand quilted it when I was finished with the applique and piecing out all the big blocks together. It was fun, but I can't imagine now spending, I'm too old for that. I can't imagine spending a whole year creating a quilt now. I mean, it's mine. I designed it and I did everything to it, and looking back, I'm just like, how in the world did I have the time? I had 3 little girls, and my grandpa lived with us, and so right there, I'm getting all the way up into the corner. I don't have my needle up there. I'm just using my needle to flip the back side where I've got that fabric turned. I had it really good there just a minute ago. Just kind of roll it under with the tip of your needle. And I've worked up a knot. Okay. And then take a stitch into that center where the middle of your heart is. Come right up there where the center of the heart is. Again, you know, you could use a pencil. You could use something other than pen. I used a plain old ink pen to draw around my heart, my pattern piece. I think this is glued pretty good there. No, it's not. This is hard since I'm a lefty. And I am so out of practice with applique, it ain't even funny. Okay, so I've got that tip secured. I'm just going to come up there in that fold. And I've got another loopy knot. There we go. Try not to shift your fabrics in your hand as you go. Try to keep your crochet pretty stable. It is like an untamed beast underneath this cotton fabric. The cotton fabric wants to be the boss. And the crochet is like, oh, heck no. We ain't doing this. So there's a power struggle going on between the two fabrics. Just keep inching your way up and around. Bob Ross here. Happy little trees, happy little trees. Sorry about that notification. It's a YouTube notification. I'm sure that something came up there on the screen real quick. Not sure who it is. Probably Miss Sunshine Cooper. She likes to have her networking lives on, and they're pretty awesome. I just don't get a chance to join in much. Not as often as I'd like. So, sorry about the shadows. It's getting a little dark. So, try not to work past your thumb. Wherever it is that you're holding that, try not to go past that point and turn too much ahead, because you're just going to lose it. This is an exercise in patience for me right now, because I've not appliqued in so long. I'm so rusty. I don't have the, what do they call it? Not ambidextrous, where you can really do things with your hands. I don't have that anymore. I just messed something up right there. I'm stuck underneath my fabric somewhere. I'm gonna go back up. Try to get back up to where I was. Okay, let's try to turn this once more. Well, I had it. This is like watching paint dry for you guys here. But I can't pause it and say I'll meet you on the other side of the heart or whatever. Just keep turning it little by little. Grabbing a little bit of yarn. Taking a little bite out of that fold. Now I'm going to turn this whole side, and the top of the heart is almost done. I'm going to turn and come from the bottom right now. Little by little. Be very patient with yourself and with your project. You know, do a practice piece if you've never done this technique before, or if you have no hand sewing experience. I highly recommend you do a practice piece. Trying to keep that where you can see it in the light. If you're working on a bigger piece and you can't keep hold of your fabric in your hand like I'm doing, because that would be a lot of fabric to hold, I would suggest you use some kind of heat and bond or whatever, something that will work with steam. Stitch Witchery, I think they have one that works with steam, where you could just steam iron it on and then either do a blanket stitch around it, like a buttonhole stitch, a whip stitch, or even just a running stitch around just inside the raw edge of your fabric would be great. Whatever would hold it down and make it have a decorative look would be nice. Or I have the opposite thing I'm wanting to do. I'm wanting to make a small mandala piece and stitch it onto the back of either a denim shirt or a denim jacket. Okay, I am about to run out of thread, so I'm going to have to rethread here, but I do want to keep going with this, and you may have the same thing happen, so I'm going to show you how to deal with running out of thread. I've got about 4 inches left. I am going to come up through that fold again, and I'm going to knot this. Hold the tip of that needle up, go around it 2 times, 3 times, and pull your knot with your fingernail down to the base. Okay, then just take it and go up underneath your fabric, kind of hit a couple stitches of the crochet just right across the top of those, and bring your thread up through there. Cut it off, and then your knot does not show. The knot does not show. So now I need to get some more thread. Thank you for your patience and bearing with me. Our flight will resume in just a few minutes. Mom always taught me the old stick the thread in your mouth and your lips and pull trick to wet the thread and then smooth them out like that. But I learned over the years, even doing that isn't as good as seating your needle. Oops, I missed the video camera there. Isn't as good as, I just made it the first time here. It's not as good as seating your needle onto the thread, just like that. It's always better to have too much thread than not enough. So that was about as long as I like to handle at one time. About 18 inches doubled. Anywhere from 14 to 16, 18 inches doubled. Okay, so we need to come up underneath here and up into the fold area. But I want to do it from this side, right here. And I'm just going to come up into the fold. I want to do it that way so that I can tuck my tails and my yarn up into the fabric as I turn the fabric under. Just going to poke the ends in there. And now we're back in the saddle and ready for takeoff again. So we're going to turn that with the edge of our needle, with the side of the needle. Don't go past your thumb. It's kind of a turn it under and then give it just a smidge of a pinch. I've got a little bit of my line showing, but I don't care. Overall, it's going to be beautiful. Try not to nitpick yourself too much when you're doing this. You are on a learning curve. Shoot, I'm doing the video to help you, and I'm on a learning curve. We are all on a learning curve. Life is a journey. Do the best you can with what you know at the time. I'm kind of in a ditch with between my crochet stitches right here, so I wanted to be sure there that I caught some of the stitch, at least one of them. Now I'm trying to hit my fold. Okay, we're getting near the tip. I did not secure the tip yet, okay? We're going to deal with that when we get down there. I did not start, don't start at the corner of a heart or the corner of anything. Start on more of a straighter edge when you start your stitching. It puts you in more control of what's going on with your fabric. Fabrics, plural here. So I'm just going to keep bumping those edges under. I'm going to get rid of those tails and tuck those in. I'm coming up to the tip of the heart, and I'm just smushing right behind the tip of the heart with my needle. Now you can continue stitching. Probably depending on what type of fabric background you've got, that's going to determine how small or how large your stitches need to be. I did some single crochets and did double crochet row. So, you know, the double crochet row, my stitches are my hand stitching is a little bit wider. My stitches are a little bit farther apart. So we've made it up to that tip. I'm just going to take the scissors and cut some of that bulk off of there, that corner. Now I'm just going to keep stitching, but only grabbing this left side I'm working on with the needle here. Just grabbing that left side of the fabric turned under, and then take a nice stitch into the very tip of your heart, or as close as you can get it. Now we're going to turn, and we're going to secure this right here. So go up underneath and come up through the tip and secure that tip down. Pull down this way. Now take and get your little bites again. Little bites, little bites. You can't have your pudding if you don't eat your meat. Okay, now I've come to where I started. I'm going to go ahead and take one more stitch. Overlapping just a bit there. I've got some ink right here, and I do not care. That is a fantastic point to that heart. That ink will come out with some Resolve carpet spray in the red bottle if you want to deal with your ink. So to knot it, I'm just going to come up there through both the fabric and the crochet. Wrap it 3 times. Hold it down. Put my fingernail on it, on those loops I wrapped around the needle, and pull it through like so. Then you've got your knot, and you can hide it just like this. And there we have my coaster. Got a tail popping. There we go. Fancy dancy, isn't it, Nancy? Fancy dancy, isn't it, Nancy? So she's cute. And I think I might take some orange yarn that matches this and go around my edges and add an orange little border. And that will be a great size mug rug or coaster. Yep, I like it. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Anyways, I hope you learned a lot this episode, and this will be in the playlist Sew-Cro tutorials, because it is sewing for your crochet, or vice versa. Talk to you later, and you have a good night or good day wherever you are. God bless.